December 22nd, 1948. I almost got that wrong. I had it in 49, but it was 48, in Ventura, California. He was preceded in death by his father, Francisco Perez, mother, Manuela Perez, they call her Mema, and brothers Ruben and Ramiro. He was raised here in Sutter County. He served in the U.S. Army during the Vietnam conflict, and I have a nice picture here when he was young. He lived in Roseville, California for many years with his wife, Rosemary, at the time, and his son, Ruben James, who he called Mousy. He worked for many years at a plant making Formica countertops. And so he had that job for many years. What I remember of my Uncle Raul, he enjoyed the sport of boxing. He loved classic cars and football, the Oakland Raiders. I always remember seeing a speed bag or a punching bag in the garage whenever we go visit. Later in life, after some trying times, he found his way to Paradise, California. And he lived there, he resided there for some years until he died just suddenly on March 5th, 2016. So now we're gathered here today to remember and honor my Theo. I am comforted personally by the fact that my Theo was a Bible reader. He enjoyed reading the Bible. Enjoyed having lengthy Bible discussions. And one subject that I'm sure that he considered during his studies was that what happens to those loved ones of ours that die? Very interesting question. Many people pondered this question for many years. Well, I'm here today just to mention a few things, some things that hopefully will encourage us. Well, that being said, we all have in life, every one of us here has a common enemy, and the Bible calls this enemy of ours death. Most of us have seen this enemy claim the lives of people dear to us, like my Uncle Paul. But God is far more powerful than death. He has promised to destroy this enemy once and for all. The Bible teaches us in 1 Corinthians 15:26 that the last enemy, death, is to be brought to nothing. This is good news, very good news. God promises that the dead will live again. In Isaiah 26:19, it mentions, "Your dead will live. My corpses will rise up, awake, and shout joyfully. You residents in the dust, for your dew is the dew of the morning, and the earth will let those powerless in death come to life." They will be brought back to life. This is the hope of the resurrection that we all have. Death is a terrible thing. The pain and the grief and the feelings of helplessness can seem unbearable. And I'm sure we've all felt that these last few days. At such times, though, we need to go to God's Word, the Bible, to seek comfort. You know, when Jesus' friend Lazarus died, Jesus was deeply moved. It mentions in the book of John that he groaned within himself and became troubled. It also says later on in that account that Jesus gave way to tears. So he had emotions over his friend that had died. So many people may think that, does this mean that Jesus had no hope for his friend? No, not at all. Jesus, in fact, knew that something wonderful was about to happen. He was going to resurrect his friend Lazarus briefly. But still, the pain that he felt and the sorrow was real. And this is the pain that death brings to all of us. But in a way, Jesus' encouraging to us all. It teaches us that Jesus and his Father hate death. Yes, Jehovah God is able to fight and overcome that enemy, death, by means of the resurrection. Jesus taught, he said in John 5:28, that all those in the memorial tombs will be resurrected. Yes, God is the creator of all life. Should it seem that unreal that he could recreate life if he wanted to? It shouldn't be. God can remember our dead loved ones in every detail, and he is ready to restore them back to life. Once, long ago, there was a man. His name was Job. And he asked the question, if a man dies, can he live again? Job was speaking about waiting in his grave until the time that God came to remember him. And he said to God, you will call, and I will answer you. You will long for the work of your hands. So the Bible teaches us much about what the resurrection is all about and what is the resurrection to come. People will be restored to life here on earth, reunited with their loved ones. God's purpose is that the whole earth be converted into a paradise, so that the dead who are risen back to life will come back to a place not filled with war and crime and hatred and pain and disease, but actually a paradise where these conditions don't exist anymore. They will have the opportunity to live forever on this earth in peaceful and happy conditions. During a period of 1,000 years, the dead will be resurrected and given an opportunity to join faithful humans here on earth in serving God hand in hand. This will be a wonderful time. This period of time in the Bible is referred to as Judgment Day. So, with that being said, if we should pass during this current system of things, we need to remember the prospect we have of being resurrected in the future in the paradise earth, here on earth. Yes, God, Jehovah God, really will defeat our common enemy, death. Death and the pain and sorrow will be no more. Death will be gone forever. So with that being said, I need to clear my throat here just saying. I'm going to do something that I haven't done before, so bear with me. Hopefully I don't mess this up. I just wanted to sing a brief little song. And this song was actually written by Paul McCartney. And he wrote this song when his mother died. It was a way of dealing with grief, of death. So, with that being said, just a little insight to the song. It's not a religious song, it's just a song that helps me deal with stuff like this. One day you will look to see I've gone, for tomorrow may bring, so I'll follow the sun. One day you will know I was the one, for tomorrow may bring, so I'll follow the sun. And now the time is come, and so my love I must go. Oh, Thank you. Thank you for attending. And God bless. Yay, would you like to come share? All right. Thank you so much. All right.
I think that anybody who knows anything about the Beatles, this might have been the fifth Beatle.
All rolled up in one.
I need to follow that. I'm not sure I can, but I wanted to share some thoughts about my primo Raul. And this time I got my notes, so in case I lose my thought, all I got to do is look right down here, and there they are. Once again, I'd like to thank everybody for being here. Velma, Davey, Florida's family, my family, Robert, Louie and his wife. Thank you for being here. It really does help us to get through these times. Anyways, like I said, I'd like to share some thoughts about my primo Raul. Boy, I tell you, we know that we're going to face this day. A lot of us are going to see our loved ones and come to an end here. But nonetheless, we want to stay strong. We want to get our lives in order also. A few things here I got written down is about my primo is, boy, did he love his cars. Ever since I can remember back in the 60s, Raul always had a nice car. If it wasn't that 58 Chevy Impala, that big white one that he had the factory air in it, turn off the key and it would drop down. Today they call those air shocks or shocks and whatever. Back then it was a normal feature on the car. But I'll tell you, when he went off to the service there in Vietnam Army, he had this 1956 orange. I mean, it was the deepest orange you can imagine. And it was just a beautiful car, and he had a way of making them look so nice. I mean, he'd put on the right tires, the spinners, or whatever it was. He loved his cars, and that 56 Chevy was one that I'll never forget. Like I said, the darkest orange you could possibly think, and it had the black interior with a 4-speed. Nice motor. Boy, he'd be burning tires all over the place. Anyways, he loved his cars. Raul was also, too, a person who loved animals. I'm telling you, his cat that he had at home, and I'm not sure what's happening with that black cat, name was Janet. And he loved that cat, and Louis can attest, he's always getting food, getting anything that he could, something for it to scratch. He had a nice little bed for it, and that was his one companion that stayed with him all the time. He had a love for animals. Also, too, a funny thing that Raul was telling me about one day is that he used to have pretty much the same routine. He'd get up in the morning and have his coffee, toast with some butter and some honey there, and he just had whatever he wanted. He was fortunate in that here lately that he could have whatever he wanted. He really did enjoy his routine. The story that I wanted to tell you about was he said he went to the Chico Mall one day, and he was getting along there, walking along, and he thought the people were looking at him kind of strange or whatever. So he said he looked up and he seen a DeBond's jewelry. So he says, you know what? I'll show these guys. He walked into that jewelry shop and he bought a nice bull of a watch. And just to show, he says, I didn't need no watch. He says, I've got one, but these people thought maybe I had nothing. Let me show them. He went in and bought that $500, $600, $700 watch. Came out, looked across the hall there and seen a sunglass hut. He went in there and bought a $250 pair of sunglasses. Didn't even want them. The first time I seen him, he goes, here, primo. And he gave me these glasses. I said, what? They weren't some nice glasses, but he says, I just bought them on the spur of the moment just to show some people that I could buy whatever I wanted. And that was evident in his last few years. He had, again, some nice cars. He had that Ford. I never could understand why he would buy a Ford, but whatever the reason was, it was a very nice one. And to this day, I'm pretty sure that his son has that car. is a very, very nice Sport Edge, and he had his truck. You know, he had that nice truck. He was always riding around with that. One thing we know that Cuate, he loved his oldies music. He loved music of all kinds, but he was always having some tunes on. I know that when he got that Ford Edge, he made sure that he hooked it up with a Sirius radio. And well, we'd be cruising around out there towards the Buttes, Yuba City, anywhere we went, he always had those oldies on, and he loved his music a lot. He gave me a few tapes, and I tell you, those are some real tear-jerking songs, but really nice. Something that I'm going to remember about my primo. And the music that he loved. Another thing that my primo was is he was very hospitable. You know, I managed to always go down there every few months, go over there and stay. It was like a little refuge for me. I'd go down to his house, and you know, by 4 or 5 o'clock in the evening, we were always there at his house, having a couple cold ones. And he'd put on some meat. He goes, here's what my dad used to do. And always had something, he'd put something in the oven, and we'd have a nice little dinner there, have a couple beers, and watch some sports on TV. And he says, you don't drink until it's 5 o'clock. I said, well, hey, it's 5 o'clock somewhere. Let's get started. So he'd always have something there. It was kind of funny that his son here recently, maybe a week ago, went to Primo's house and opened up a drawer. There was a whole bunch of candy in that drawer. And his son made the comment, Velma was telling me that he said, there must have been a shortage over here in candy because this guy had a whole drawer full. You couldn't understand it, but you know, Louis, his neighbor there that lived by him, Primo always had something for the little kids that were running around there. Always was going to give them something. I know he really loved, took to Louis' son and buying, you know, we'd go to Walmart and look through the music bin there all the time, and we'd be going along through there, and he would see something for the little kid, you know, little shirt or little pants, had something, you know, on it or whatever. He would get it for that little kid. He loved little kids. Like I said, he was just a hospitable person. You go over to his house, and always offer you something to drink, have a seat, some pretzels, some candy, some 5-hour drinks, anything. You know, he had it all. He like pulling out drawers and, you know, sitting there listening to music, watching some games. Primo was just a hospitable person. Then when I get ready to go home, he'd make sure that he had me a little bag of something, always something. And boy, it was you know, just so loving and kind. Always remember that about him. What else was there? I had some other things here. The SPCA. I know that Raul was just such a generous person that he always wanted to help somebody. And you know, I tried to warn him a couple times. Hey, you know, be careful, man. You're given to all these little different organizations, SPCA, Wounded Warrior, anything that he thought that he could, you know, give something to. He was always willing to put something out for somebody else. He had a love for people. I especially appreciated about him is he always loved the underdog. It don't matter what it was. If somebody was an underdog, that's who he was going to take. In the last Super Bowl, with the Carolina Panthers and the Denver Broncos, you know who was favored there? Well, the team that was 15-1. But the Denver Broncos were the underdog, and that's who Raul took. I called him up and, you know, got it on record from him. Who you taking? And he says, I'm taking the underdog. Well, you know that. So yeah, so hey, they won. But anyways, what a loving and kind cousin that he was, and I sure too felt the sting of him passing away. So wanted to get down there to be with him when Louis called and said that they were looking for some relatives, next of kin or something. My wife and I got in her car, and we were on our